So here's a video on how to make your acceleration graphs starting from the data table. And the tab on the left here should have your data. If you click on the column A tab here, hold the shift key and then go over to this column and click, you will have selected all of the data. And you can make a graph. Typically go to insert. There might also be this tab over here, this button over here that says insert chart. So either way, you can either go there or you can go to insert and select a chart and it will make a chart for you any minute now. There it is. And I'm going to suggest the very first thing you do, and all your data is here, like this is a graph of everything. I'm going to suggest you click over here where these three dots are and move it to its own sheet. So this graph is now big and in one place. Now, if you only want one of these data sets, like acceleration X, for example, you have to get rid of everything else. So that's back up here again in the menu. If you go up to the upper right here, the three dots aren't there, but if you just click in that area, the menu thing will open up and you have your setup. Now, what's by default here is a line chart, and you can keep it as a line chart if you want, or you can click on that and go down to the scatter plot, which is typically how we do data points, graphing in a scatter plot. I'll keep it as a line chart for now. It might actually be a little bit easier if we do this. And go back, get out of this. And we have all the different series here. So you're going to unselect all the ones you don't want. So if we want an acceleration X graph versus time, then everything that isn't acceleration X, we're going to remove. So there goes the Y, there goes the Z, here goes the resultant acceleration. I'm going to leave altitude in here, so that way we can compare altitude with the acceleration. The acceleration is down here, and the altitude is over here. So now you have your two line graphs. You can take a look at them. You could rescale them if you'd like. You can go over to Customize. And Customize allows for you to scale the horizontal and the vertical axes separately. Within Series over here, you could actually take each of these and give them the different axes. Like you could set up so that, like let's say we want this altitude to be on the left here, but we want these acceleration numbers to be on the right, so we can split screen this. We're going to pick acceleration, and we're going to move it to the right axis, which is this tab over here. So now we actually have a larger graph to read, but it's also kind of big and getting in the way of the altitude graph as well. So we can rescale this to make it a little bit different. Notice 0 is here, and it goes down to about -20 and up to +20. So if we scroll down to right vertical axis, which is rescaling this one, we could set our minimum and maximum values. Minimum value, I guess it makes sense to keep it around -20, so I'll type -20 in here. What's in there is the auto default, what the computer thinks makes the nicest picture. But if we want to squish down the top, pick a number bigger than 20 for up here, because that'll put this number down here. If you make a bigger number up here, let's try 40 and see what happens. Yeah, it's a little more reasonable. 40 kind of squishes it down so we can kind of see what's happening. And now you have a graph that has just your x-axis acceleration and the altitude plotted all together on the same thing. So some more advanced things you could do is you could just get rid of the line graph and put in one of the smoothing curves to get rid of some of the noise in all this data. That would be going back to series. And for each one of these, like for instance, we have acceleration selected here in series. We could get rid of the actual data and replace it with a trend line. So I would select trend line, and we don't want a linear trend, we want that moving average trend, which will smooth out the data. And we've been doing a centered moving average with a period of 3, although it's kind of your call what you want this to be. And make the line really dark by putting it at 100% here. But we need to get rid of the actual data, like the line chart itself. And I'm pretty sure the only way to do that is to click on color and select none. And there it is. So this is what we have left over. And if we change the period on this, you'll see that we get different levels of noise depending on the period you choose. Like there's 2, here's 10, and we were kind of settling on 3. So you see the moving average really reduces a lot of the noise in this because it was really shaky before and now it's not. You could do that to the altitude, but it's probably not as big a deal. And we could just show that again for the sake of showing it again. So go over here and select altitude. That's in the series again, and then select which series you want to look at, altitude. And we don't want the original line, so I'm going to just make the color of the line chart none, and it makes the line chart disappear. But I'm going to replace it with a trend line, and we're going to make that trend line the moving average. We're going to make it centered. We're going to give it a 3 period, and we'll make this dark. Actually, you'll notice how it made the trend line black, and the reason it did that was because I got rid of the color over here. We can remake it red by just selecting the color and making it look like that. And there it is. Oh, we don't need air bars. I mistakenly clicked that. Sorry. That's it. We have made a graph. You can rename this, the title of the graph if you want. That's in chart and axis titles. You could actually name the X and Y axes too if you want to. Time is already named here, but you can put labels on these sides. One of the ways to change the title is just to click on it and then go through and delete, but you could leave everything else. This would be like acceleration X versus time in seconds, however you want to do it. But that's the basics of how to make the graph, and I hope that helps.